Hi guys, I'm back again today with another reaction video, and today we're checking out another Buy Me a Coffee request, and this is by Hulk Egypt, and this is things I like about Islam as a non-Muslim. So yeah, before we do start, don't forget to subscribe, click the bell button if you want a request, then check Buy Me a Coffee. Well, yeah, let's get it.
Five of my top favorite things about the Quran. And now some of these things are actual things about the Quran, and some of them are going to be things that are specifically mentioned in the Quran. So certain ayahs in the Quran that like really stood out to me, that really resonate with me. So let's begin. First thing is that the Quran speaks about signs, and this is one of my favorite things about the Quran. Like when we look at Surah 13 verse 4, it says, "And within the land are neighboring plots and gardens of grapevines and crops and palm trees growing, several from a root or otherwise, watered with one water, but we make some of them exceed others in quality of fruit. Indeed, in that are signs for people who reason." So it's like, it's telling me, it's describing something in nature and saying in that there are signs, and it's plural. So it's not just one thing that you're going to notice. There could be a whole list of lessons or knowledge and nuggets of wisdom that you can actually find in that. So I found that pretty cool. And also there's like mention of specific signs. Like I had to write them down because I don't remember them off the top of my head, but like it talks about the expansion of the universe in Surah 51 and 48, and also embryology in Surah 23 verses 13 to 15. So I really appreciate that about the Quran, that it's something that may not necessarily give all the answers or try to give all the answers about everything, but it describes something and says in it, it's a sign, and it's like, oh, okay, so what are we gonna learn about when we look at this particular sign? So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Now moving on to number 2, I love this passage. It's probably the only passage in the Quran that I actually memorized, speaking about there being no compulsion in religion. Well, I don't necessarily remember the entire passage, but just that line. But it goes like this. It's in Surah 2, that's Al-Baqarah, the longest surah, verses 256. "There shall be no compulsion in acceptance of the religion. The right course has become clear from the wrong. So whoever disbelieves in Taghut and believes in Allah has grasped the most trustworthy handhold with no break in it, and Allah is hearing and knowing." So the fact that it's saying there's no forcing now. Nobody's forcing you to pick a religion. It's here is it or there is it. It's your choice. Allah or not Allah. Pick one. This also really allows for understanding and appreciation of people that have different beliefs, different faiths, and different backgrounds, because a lot of times we have our religions based off of the religion that we grew up in, because that's generally all we're going to know. It's not until later on in life where we actually can get to look and reason and question things, and then maybe see things differently. So we're all on our different paths, and there shouldn't be anyone forcing somebody to keep a particular religion, because we're smart, we have brains, as well as God is God, and he's all powerful, all knowing. He's going to know what's going to appeal to somebody and lead them to the quote-unquote right path or right path.
Very, very good way of putting it. It's true though. Like you cannot force, like the people who always force people to like, come here, it's the truth, the way, and the light, or do this, it's da. Like most of us, we have brains, right? We think, and we question, we seek, and yeah, what he's saying.
Paths, and then everything is fine. So I really love that the Quran actually brings that up. The third thing I love about Quran is that it's very explicit in explaining really kind of what God is or who God is, or kind of giving you the idea, or at least attempting to in the best way, one of the best ways that I've seen. Now, there's a passage in Surah 2 verses 255, literally the verse just before the one that talks about there being no compulsion in religion. But this one talks about Allah. It says, Allah, there is no deity except Him, the ever-living, the sustainer of all existence. Neither drowsiness overtakes Him nor sleep. To Him belongs whatever is in the heavens and whatever is on earth. Who is it that can intercede with Him except by His permission? Who knows what is presently before them and what will be after them? And they encompass not a thing of His knowledge except for what He wills. His courtesy extends over the heavens and the earth, and their preservation tires Him not. And He is the Most High, the Most Great. So it gives you sort of a vivid image, if you want to use the term image, you know, a vivid image of who God is. It's like there's nothing greater, nothing stronger, nothing more powerful. He sustains every single thing that is created, and He only allows you to know what He wants you to know. And that's really it, or what He allows you, what He gives permission for you to know. And maintaining the universe and everything, it's nothing that He gets tired from. He doesn't need to sleep and take a nap, you know. He just exists, the ever living, meaning He just lives. There's no death to Him. And that's that. It's such a vivid picture. I love, love, love this passage here. Like, it really paints God as the boss. And I mean that in the most respectful way possible. You know, number 4 is thinking for yourself. The Quran actually mentions that this is something that's really, really important. I actually found a surah that's talking about it. It's Surah 8 verses 22. And it says, indeed, the worst of the living creatures in the sight of Allah are the deaf and the dumb who do not use reason. And then there's another ayah that says, and do not pursue that of which you have no knowledge. Indeed, the hearing, the sight, and the heart, about all those one will be questioned. So really, it's so important to just investigate the knowledge. And just because you hear it and you know it, it shouldn't stop there. You know, you got to keep going and investigating, because this is something that you're going to be asked about anyways. Also, you're supposed to use your reason. Don't be foolish in terms of your thinking. The mind is like really such a powerful thing. And the Quran, at least to me anyway, these ayahs, they jump out to me because it's showing like the importance of actually using your mind and using it. Don't just let it sit stagnant and accept everything that you see or hear. And the last thing, number 5, is that the Quran is really in one language. And I did mention this in a previous video, but I thought that that was such an important piece, because if you look at various different translations of the Quran in different parts of the world, different languages, Russian, you know, there is Spanish, French, English, of course, Mandarin, all kind of different translations, but you really can just check the Arabic text to see the actual meaning and the actual context of the words. Because yes, oftentimes context and meaning are lost in translation.
True.
So the fact that, you know, you can just go back to the Arabic Quran, that's the only language that the Quran is in. You can go back to that and check and see, oh, what are the meanings here that can be derived? What's the context here? What's the Arabic actually saying? And nobody's going to dispute that. No Muslim is going to be like, oh, no, by the way, the Quran was also revealed in multiple languages. No, it's just one. So you can really just go back, check the source text, and that is it. It's very simple. Top 5 of my favorite Quran verses. I've been doing a little reading, and some of them have stood out to me, and they were pretty cool actually, so I want to share them with you guys in a video, not necessarily in a particular order to me. Okay, with number 1. This one is taken from Surah 64 verses 3, and it says, He created the heavens and the earth in truth, and formed you and perfected your forms, and to Him is the final destination. So first thing that really stood out to me is when it talks about He perfected your forms. And I'm always thinking of how self-deprecating human beings are. And I know how self-deprecating I can be towards myself. Like, oh my God, you're the worst. Oh, I'm such an idiot. And saying things like that.
True. Like, we always compare ourselves, right? It's like me, I always try, at least. I'm not perfect. Nobody is. In terms of like, you know, what we deem as perfect. But I try my best to see something that I don't like about myself and say, God created me this way, so I'm embracing it. Okay? Like, I cannot criticize myself based on how God created me. So if He's the one who made me like this, who gave me whatever it is that I don't like, I should be open to accepting it because this is what I got, right? Instead of like saying, oh God, why did you give me like big hands? I should have like small hands. I should be more like, you know what? I like my hands. I love it. It's unconventional maybe in our society, but I love it. So thank you.
Oh, humans, we're so stupid and everything. I'm like, but this verse is saying though that we're perfected. So I'm perfect. According to the Quran, anyways, I am perfect. You are perfect. Perfectly imperfect. I think the whole idea of perfect sometimes gets skewed, where we think perfect, or we put a meaning to what perfect actually is. When perfect, you think of perfect, it's like somebody that doesn't make any mistakes, you know. But I don't necessarily think that that is perfect in the sense of human beings.
Yeah, I feel like human beings' perfection is like somebody who's adaptable instead of somebody who does everything perfectly. Like somebody who's ever growing, ever learning, ever, you know, like always improving, like upgrading themselves.
Being perfect, I think human beings being perfect is just, we are what we are. We're human beings, and in us being that, that is perfection, you know. And we have all these abilities as a human being, and we can continue to improve them. But the fact that we're a human being, we're perfectly human being. That's really it. It was one of those verses that kind of made my brain stop and think and reconsider what I have been labeling as being perfect versus what perfect actually is, if that makes sense, guys. Number 2 comes from the Quran, Surah 2, verses 286. Very short one. It says, Allah does not burden a soul beyond that it can bear. Yeah. And this really just speaks to the fairness in the universe. I've dealt with a whole lot of stuff in my life. I'm sure you have too. You know, from my my mother being sick with breast cancer and thinking that I was gonna lose her, you know, to, you know, losing friendships and, you know, dealing with personal matters. And sometimes it looks like things are so bad, or like I remember times when like my bank account literally was like in the negatives, and you're like, how am I gonna get out of this, right? I always look back and I realize, wow, actually I could handle that. Why? Because I handled it. I'm still here. This verse really just jumps out because it shows that there's a fairness in the universe, that whatever you're going through, you can handle it. You know, you're never going to be given something that is beyond your capabilities to deal with, as difficult as it might be. So that's a little comforting for me. Now, this next verse, I've mentioned it in other videos, but it's taken from Surah 45 verses 13, and it goes, and He has subjected to you whatever is in the heavens and whatever is on the earth, all from Him. Indeed, in that are signs for people who give thought. So the reason why I really like this verse, it's actually one of my favorites, is because it points you to the heavens, it points you to the earth, and that there's actually signs for you to take notice of when you go and examine these things. So me, myself, and just humans in general, you know, the more we observe things that are created in the sky, in outer space, or even here on earth, is the more that we start to learn about them. And something may look like it is a certain way at face value, but it's actually not. It's like our skin, for the most part, it looks solid. And yes, we see these little indents known as pores, we see them in our skin, but for the most part we think our skin it's solid, but actually under a microscope you see that there's actually a whole lot of holes. So that completely changes the whole understanding of human skin. Just little things like that, it just makes me always wonder, like, okay, well, if I see something, I gotta keep looking deeper, because what else is there? You know, all these things that we see, they're signs, and not just signs for scientific discovery, but possibly signs for spiritual discovery. You know, we've talked about in the past that things, the fact that they're created, points to the logical conclusion that there is a creator of some sort, whether you use the term Allah or God or the universe or the universal power, whatever term you use. Generally, people make a logical conclusion that, oh, there was a starting point, there is a creator. So signs in that way that can lead people to make those conclusions as well. It also really points to the fact that things can be so complex. Even the most simple things like an ant, you know, there's a whole world of ants, how they operate and everything. And you know, we look at that, and the fact that it's so complex, and this is an ant. We're not even getting into the bigger organisms now, or even the tinier organisms that are smaller than ants. So it's like this whole intricacy of a creation that is happening all around us. So many different created things, so many different creative beings. And it's like, are we ever gonna understand everything? Because yes, there's signs there. It's like you see something out in nature and you go and observe it, but how deep does that rabbit hole go? Now, number 4 takes us to Surah 27, verses 18 to 19. It's the longest one here, and it goes, at length, when they came to a lowly valley of ants, one of the ants said, O ye ants, get into your habitations, lest Solomon and his hosts crush you underfoot without knowing it. So he smiled, amused at her speech, and he said, O my Lord, so order me that I may be grateful for thy favors, which thou hast bestowed on me and on my parents, and that I may work the righteousness that will please thee, and admit me by thy grace to the ranks of thy righteous servants. Now, it's kind of a weird one to be considered one of my favorite verses, but I think why I'm so drawn to this one is because it was actually one of the first verses that I've ever read in the Quran. Like, for real. So I remember that there's this incident where the ants are talking amongst themselves saying, okay, go back into your house because Solomon and his troops are coming. You know, we don't want to be crushed without them knowing, and Solomon's listening to this happening, and you know, it's making my mind go, whoa, hold up, who really is this guy? You know, he's listening to ants. Like, he can hear ants speak. And yes, according to Islam anyways, and Judaism and Christianity, Solomon or Suleiman is a prophet, and he's given special abilities by God. And although, yes, she could have been given that special ability, it always makes me think, can humans actually get to the point where they can have full out conversations and understand exactly what an animal or an insect is saying, and also convey to that animal or insect?
I was keeping it for the latter part, but I totally forgot. And the reason why I'm like in pain is my body is in pain. Yeah, I really wanted to say something. It's not about, is it about the ants? Trust me, my brain is so short term. I really try, but I can't remember
what they're saying. Maybe we can get there. Maybe we haven't unlocked that level of human consciousness just yet. But yeah, that's what this verse does for me. Kind of makes me open. Oh, what else is possible? What else are human beings capable of? Or is this just something that is completely unique to Solomon? And there's also cases of Prophet Muhammad communicating with inanimate objects, or at least hearing inanimate objects speak, and things like that. So is this something that is isolated just for prophets? Or is it something that, yes, humans are capable of, but because prophets were the best of humans, according to Islam anyways, that they were just given certain abilities, but in general, humans can also do those things. And the final verse is from Surah 13, verses 11. And it goes, God does not change the condition of people unless they change what is in themselves. Now, this verse is so beautiful because it puts...
This is the first time I'm hearing it. I'm gonna pause and talk because I will forget, literally. I tried my best to like wait for him to speak, but I totally forgot. So let me say it now. Yeah, some people feel like, you know, they just sit down and pray and then money will drop from the sky. I always say it. I was like, you're not like, even if you're destined for wealth in life, but you don't get off your ASS and go hustle, nothing will come of it, right? Like, you will not get to the point of success or wealth that you are destined for. Even if you go to mosque, church, synagogue 24/7, but then after you go pray, you go sleep, and then you go pray again and you sleep. Like, if you're not working, nothing is gonna happen. You have to really change, or like get off, like do it. Okay, actions is what creates success. That's why one of my favorite sayings is hard work beats talent. So you can have all the talents in the world, let's say to be an athlete, but if you're not practicing, you're not putting in the hard work, the person with lesser talent than you will be the superstar. And
the responsibility back on the person. You know, growing up in a very religious household, I remember praying, hey, God, change me, give me patience, and all of that. And I'm just praying and praying and praying and asking for it and just expecting it to happen. Like, oh, bam, now all of a sudden I'm patient. But no, what am I doing to develop patience in me? What am I doing to be more understanding? What am I doing to be a better person in general? And this verse really just brings the responsibility back on me as a person and says, okay, well, I gotta do something now. If I'm asking for something, I gotta put my best foot forward as well to create that outcome that I want in myself. So the change isn't gonna happen unless I make the change over here. And that's pretty liberating because it just tells me that anything I want to do, anything I set my mind to,
you can,
and I make that change will happen. 5 things that I really, really, really love about Islam. Some of you guys have asked, you know, what have I learned? What is it about Islam that really appeals to me?
Maybe I should make a video like this.
So I just want to take this time to mention just 5 of them. So let's get into it. First thing that I really love about Islam is that there is like a clear-cut understanding of one God. And that God is a being that is outside of all creation. You can't even imagine what this being looks like. There's nothing that is created that we can see and that we can hear, that we can feel, that is like this being known as Allah or God. And that's it. It's clear cut. There's no beliefs or doctrines about God manifesting into different forms and, you know, taking on various different depictions and demigods or anything like that. No, it's just one God, and that is it. The supreme ruler of the universe, unlike any other. Nobody gave birth to God, and God doesn't give birth to anybody. God's not married or anything like that. It's just the supreme being, and that's it. And, you know, I find that Muslims have a very clear-cut understanding of one God, and they're very firm with it. So that's something that I really liked. You know, it's not a confusing definition of God. For somebody looking outside and examining that, it's like, okay, I could roll with that, you know? So yeah, that's one thing I really like. The next thing I really love about Islam, the second thing, is there's a prescribed way to pray. Now, this one was actually really, really eye-opening for me, because the first thing I hear when I think of prayer is just sharing your thoughts with God, asking God for different things. And in Islam, there are those that is known as dua, But the prayer, it's a different thing, or salat. It's one of the 5 pillars actually, and there's a prescribed way to pray. So somebody that comes to Islam and they want to know how to pray, there's literally a formula that is followed, and anyone can do that. Literally, it's not complicated at all. Here is the format, and as a matter of fact, there's set times to pray. 5 times a day, you're praying. It really helps Muslims continue to have their mind thinking about God. It's not something that you're like, oh yeah, when I pray, when I get the chance, or when I'm in the mood to pray. No, it's literally set times a day. Obviously, there are various different circumstances when it comes to following out the prescribed way to pray, that if you can't meet it based on medical reasons or things like that, there's ways to do the prayer if you're not bodily able to do it. But again, that's just rare exceptions, and also that they have exceptions is a really good thing too. But it's not just that prayer is prescribed and there's a formula that people can follow easily. That's not the only thing I like about prayer in Islam. But what I also really like is that it's an opportunity for people to make sure that they are clean, because in Islam you're required to wash yourself, perform ablution, wash your hands, wash your feet and everything. So you're constantly cleansing yourself, cleansing your body. And I think that's a huge benefit, especially when it comes to transmitting
right, there's a process of cleansing. I don't know, I think we've watched the video on this, but I forget. Do you, like, for example, you took a shower and it's time for prayer, do you still go through the process of cleansing the same way? So every time, regardless of if you just got out of the shower, you still have to do that. Let me know. That's interesting, actually.
There's different bacteria or germs that may be on our body. It's a really good hygienic practice as well. Now, the third thing that I really love about Islam is that the Quran, it's in one language, and nobody disputes that.
This video is a compilation.
It's just there. If it's translated in English, if it's translated in French, or Spanish, or Afrikaans, or Amharic, any language, Korean, Mandarin, it don't matter. You can all go back and reference to one single text in Arabic. Now, I get that there's various different Muslim sects that have certain interpretations of certain passages in the Quran. Okay, that's one thing. But the fact is that there's one source Quran to go back to, and it's written in Arabic, and that's where all the other Quran translations are based on, and they are actually present in the Muslim community. The Quran, they're present there. It's Arabic, and you can check all of them, and they're the same. So that makes it very easy to check the source text, or if there's a certain mistranslation in a certain language, you can always go back and verify in the Arabic language that, is that what it says? Is that an accurate translation? So this is why I found that when Muslims are reading translations of the Quran in English, they don't necessarily call it the Quran. Sometimes, just for the sake of conversation, they say, oh, pass me that Quran. But really what it is, it's a translation of the Quran, because the Quran was revealed in Arabic according to Islam. Yeah, that makes it pretty easy to just verify the source text and double check everything. Just very, very simple. Number 4 is probably the biggest thing that I love. Well, on the surface anyways, the thing that's most appealing is how willing people are to help you. Like, honestly, Muslims, so helpful. Like, people know that I'm on my journey and I'm interested in learning about Islam. And I can't tell you the amount of DMs and emails that I get on a daily basis of people sending me videos to learn from, sending me resources, sending me passages of the Quran that I should read, just to help me out in learning more. And I know, for instance, if I was to travel to a Muslim country, they're going to be very, very, very helpful and supportive to me. I just know that. So I know from Muslims, I can really see that Islam is all about helping others, being a benefit to others. And I really see that every single day. It's actually pretty cool. It's like literally no matter what time of day it is, there's always a Muslim there that's willing to help you learn something new about their religion. They'll get up out of their sleep if they have to help you and assist you. So yeah, I really feel the love, guys, and that's a very, very big thing that I love about Islam. And the fifth thing that I love about Islam, there are many more things, but just keeping it to 5 for this episode. These are really like the top 5 things that really stand out to me that I love. But number 5 is that Islam offers a very strong and logical, organized train of thought, as well as Islam is self-governing. And what I mean by that is, you take Sharia, for example, there are prescribed rulings that Islam has that you can take them and literally run a community based off of those things. As well as, if you ask a certain Muslim why it is that they do what they do, they have a logical train of thought. And you may not agree with the train of thought, but the train of thought is there. And then you say, oh, why don't you do that? Well, ... Oh, how come you do it this way? Well, ... It's very organized and clear cut. Again, it's different from somebody agreeing with, because people have various different religious opinions and convictions. But what I really found about Islam is that the organized train of thought, it's probably some of the best I've seen as I've taken a look at religions. So I think that's something that Islam does really, really, really well. And it's something that other religions can even learn from.
I remember what I was gonna say. Yeah, I have a short-term memory, but I remember it, like, afterwards. Like, after time flies. Sometimes, like, years later, I'll be like, oh my gosh, I remember. But now I remember what I wanted to say. Obviously, ants, right? He was talking about the ants, and I was gonna say, is there any ruling of law that's like, don't kill ants? Because ants are everywhere. And is it okay to intentionally kill ants, or is that bad? I'm so mean. I know mosquitoes, yeah, we can kill them because they literally will cause you like diseases, or illness. But how about ants though? Right? I think it's okay, right? But you guys let me know, because I don't know. In that aspect, I'm not killing them for any reason. It's just like annoyance. They're everywhere, and and sometimes I just like see them and I just do that. So let me know if there is something against that, because I've been causing a lot of ants deaths. Oh, sorry. Let me know, please. It's gonna hunt me now.
Organizations even can learn from that. Organize your train of thought. Look at the logical train of thought. And yeah, again, that's just something I really love, I really admire about Islam, that they, were able to do that and get that communicated to people. It's pretty awesome, guys.
I like the like this type of format in terms of a video, especially for people like us that we are like seeking. I think he reverted, I'm not sure, but let me know what you guys thought. If you like this video, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.